My name is Alec McInnesby and I am the co-founder and chairman of the Homeless Veterans Project, a charity that we set up firstly in February of 2019 as a not-for-profit organisation, and then in July of that year we became a fully fledged charity through OSCR, the Scottish Charity Regulator. The organisation is set up principally to alleviate homelessness and poverty within the veterans community. Although we're registered in Scotland, we assist veterans throughout the whole of the UK. We have rehoused veterans from as far south as Isle of Wight to as far north as Thurso, and in the 5 years we've been going, we've been instrumental in rehoming 317 veterans, and I currently have 2 cases ongoing.
My name is Donna Armstrong. I am the Vice Chair of the Homeless Veterans Project. We formerly worked for another homeless charity where we had been involved in establishing a temporary house. We did a DIY SOS, and we had a house for veterans for about a 3-month period until we could find them permanent accommodation. The charity subsequently disbanded, and there were still veterans in this property. So Alex approached me and asked if I would consider forming a new charity with him to carry on the work that the previous charity had been doing. But we had a different vision in place for more long-term help and assistance for veterans.
We provide various services. Obviously, our primary purpose is for alleviate homelessness from veterans, which could be veterans who are sleeping on the street, who are sofa surfing, living in their car, in unfit accommodation, because there are unscrupulous landlords out there who will take exorbitant funds off a veteran and put them in properties that aren't fit. So that's our primary purpose. We also help them reach out to other organisations if they have addictions, be it alcohol, drug, gambling, what have you. We can put them in contact with organisations which can help them with that. And recently we have started another project called Up Headspace, which allows veterans who cannot afford to go on holiday or what have you to be able to get a bit of headspace, get a breakaway in a caravan that we have at Weems Bay, and we do that completely free of charge. The only thing we ask, if they do are in a position to be able to afford anything, they can make a small contribution towards funding, but it's not necessary, and it's never published whether somebody helped or not. It's just another service that we provide.
We've learned as we've gone along the primary thing that we've had to adapt due to COVID. So things have changed immensely after COVID. So we don't have the houses anymore. The landlord sold the properties. So then we started focusing on fighting with the councils and liaising, I should say, with the councils to try to get the veterans the help that they needed according to the Armed Forces Covenant, and to get into temporary accommodation and emergency accommodation, not as a priority, but just what they deserve in terms of the Armed Forces Covenant. We also pay rents and deposits for private rentals, but it was a learning curve dealing with the councils, and along the way we got a lot of good connections. We got a lot of good connections with Scottish Government, and we built up a support base of officials that were on our side and that we could utilise to help us plead the veterans' cases for them.
We've evolved quite a bit when we started. Myself and Donna, my vice chairman, we started out originally volunteering for another organisation, helping them out on projects that they had, and predominantly fundraising. We never had the experience of actually looking after veterans myself. They've been running a project in Ayrshire, a housing project in Ayrshire, which they basically abandoned the veterans that were in it. So we got together and we decided to take it over and run it, and it was a learning curve from there. We had to learn how to deal with the veterans ourselves, We had to learn how to deal with the authorities and other organisations such as Veterans First Point for their mental health and things like that. So it's ever evolving. Nobody ever knows everything. We're the first ones to reach out. We don't have the answer, but we can always find somebody that does.
Each veteran that we help costs us around about £1,500 to help from start to finish. We don't have any other source of funding but from donations such as organisations like yourselves and street collections, supermarket collections, and the odd function where somebody will host a dance or a race night or maybe a sponsorship event where somebody will do the kilt walk for us. But we don't receive any other funding as yet from anybody. The biggest challenge we have currently is that a veteran that is not on any sort of benefits, so who is working, whether it's low paid or medium rate pay, and finds themselves homeless, and that can happen through a marital split, through a landlord selling a property, being evicted, isn't entitled to any emergency accommodation from the council. Nothing at all. The only emergency accommodation that exists are bed and breakfast and hotels, who are basically subsidised by the council at exorbitant rents, which is obviously covered by their benefits. But if you're working, you're not entitled to that accommodation, and if you were to insist on it, you would be charged something like £500-600 a week for this property, and it's not sustainable because it's not going to just be a week that you're in this property. It's until we can actually put pressure on them to get a scatter flat, and with a current housing emergency or the shortage of housing, that could be months. So that is a very, very big problem at the moment. So we're having to put on an incredible amount of pressure to get them straight into a scatter flat. We'll accommodate them in a hotel for us as long as we can, but obviously that's a huge drain on the charity as well. And also not very good for the veteran because he's got to eat out. He can't cook meals. And if he's got children, he can't really have, access to the kids. So that is our biggest problem at the moment.
It's not a case of, like a lot of organisations, where we will put a veteran into a property, job done. We will support that veteran for as long as they need. We have people come back to us years later just to touch base, maybe have queries about certain things that they're not sure about. As well as putting them in a property, we educate them how to sustain that property, how to go about claiming their benefits, how to pay their gas and electric, how to set up their council tax, so that at the end of the day they can predominantly maintain that property. Biggest problem we come up against is the local authorities being reluctant. They're cash strapped. Everybody is in the environment they're at the moment. But since the pandemic, predominantly, a lot of the councils are cash strapped, and they will try every means possible to fob you off. But having an understanding of the Armed Forces Covenant, having an understanding of all the councils that have signed up to it, because we do our due diligence on every council before we approach them, knowing who the Veterans Champion is there, and also the local MSPs and MPs, we can work our way around that. We're not out to upset councils and that, probably, but we're out to work with them. But if we have to, then unlike the big charities who have masters to answer to, and the MOD and things like that, we don't. I will use social media, I will use the press, anything that I have to hold them to account and make sure that they work under the covenant that they're signed up to.
We've got quite a small band of volunteers at the moment, so it's probably about 8 of us, maybe 10 with the boys from the Boys Brigade, the youngsters from the Boys Brigade that help us. So yes, we need help specifically in the East Coast as well. So we really need somebody that side who could take a kind of organiser role in terms of fundraising or collections. That would be really helpful for us, and to approach supermarkets, football teams, that sort of thing, where it's further away for us. but they could help us with that. What we really need to do, because of what I've said to you about the problem in the temporary accommodation, is we really need to get something similar to what we had in terms of the houses for temporary accommodation. We need something where any veteran, doesn't matter what his circumstances is, doesn't matter what his earning is, can get off the streets and get into safe accommodation, get his head together until we can help him sort out his accommodation situation. That's really what we need. I think the message is that they're not looking for preferential treatment. A lot of people say, why should they be given preferential treatment? It's that we maintain that they shouldn't be disadvantaged by the service. And the way that they can be disadvantaged is that there's, a lot of the time it's single males, so they won't get preference for the housing list. Although they've done away with Section 38, where they've had to prove a local link, a lot of that information has been fed through to a lot of the local authority. So the local authority personnel will tell the veterans that this is the case. Sorry, you've got no local link, and turn away, and they will just accept that and not know that they can fight this. So yes, it's really important that there's people there that will fight on their behalf. They're used to having a lot done for them, so they're not used to claiming benefits, and they're also not used to kind of arguing with authority. If somebody says that that's the way it is, we can't help you, they'll just accept that, and then that causes a lot of them to become frustrated and stop looking for help, and then go down the road of other coping mechanisms such as drugs, alcohol, or it will just increase their mental issues. Their PTSD will trigger that. So yes.
The funding that we've been offered is a big help to us. There's several ways that money can be used. It can be used towards helping with the Op Headspace, which is a caravan project, helping. Obviously, we have overheads with that. We have site fees. We have to gain that from obviously doing the collections of what we as well. We also have to support veterans as well. If a veteran needs help with gas, electric, feeding, clothing, and obviously potential rents, deposits. So there's a multitude of ways that money can be spent. And every penny goes to the veterans. There is nobody within our organisation takes a penny. We're completely voluntary. Everyone else holds down their own job. So we fund ourselves.
I think that when people think of homeless veterans, and a lot of people that want to help support us think that there's veterans, it's just veterans sleeping under bridges and that sort of thing. So I think with the previous charity they had a kind of outreach van that used to go out, and it was largely not, it was a waste of resources really, because that's not where you will find the veterans. What we do is we establish good contacts with organisations like SACRO, with the bigger charities, Poppy Scotland, SAFA, even the police, and they know that we exist, and we need to let more people know that we exist so that they can refer people in trouble to us, and the regiments as well. So if they know that we're there and we can provide help a lot quicker than the bigger charities can, that would solve a lot of the problems. So a lot of the homelessness is people sleeping in cars. Yes, that does happen, but it's people it's marriages that break down. So maybe the gentleman will sleep on a couch with a mate, and it'll be all right for a few weeks, and then the wife will say, you really need to get rid of your mate, and then he'll go and to the local authority and try and get housing. They'll be dismissive, and he says, you know what, I'm just giving up, and that's where we would step in.
Plans for the future are, if we can get ourselves in a position either to take over an abandoned property or to purchase a property whereby we can renovate that property and use that as temporary accommodation. Section 38 is now done away with, so a veteran does not have to be in the area where he wants to be homed. We can set that house up anywhere in the country. Veterans can use that property, and they can apply to any council in the country to be rehomed from there. Previously, with the last organisation that we worked with who had that type of facility, they could only be rehomed in that council area. People can get involved by volunteering. When we're collecting, we always notify people on our social media when we're going to be collecting, where we're going to be collecting. If people want to come along and help, when we're doing the likes of the Kilt Walk or that, people want to join in teams, arrange their own teams, or arrange a fundraising event, they can help that way. If people want to actually get involved in helping with the veterans, they can come along, get in touch with us, but on that side of life, to have them involved with one-to-one with veterans who are actually homeless. We would have to CRB them and do the proper checks on them and get them registered before we could allow them to deal with a case, because you can't just jump in and start messing with people's lives. If there's veterans out there who are experiencing these type of difficulties, be it homelessness, sofa surface, living on the streets, what have you, maybe finding it hard to meet the rents and what have you at the time, reach out, get in touch. There's always an answer. If we don't have the answer, we know somebody who does. We can always point people in the right direction. Don't sit on it, don't stew on it, don't let it affect your mental health to the extent that your kids or your family are going to suffer because they're going to be a man down.
We were asked to provide some case studies, and I think the number of case studies that we could have provided were off the chart. We do have one case study that's going to be with us today. Another very poignant one, which happened just a couple of months ago, was a male veteran of Jamaican origin, and his partner was abusing him. So it was domestic abuse, female on male, and he was thrown out by the partner into the street with a 2-year-old child in Edinburgh. And he approached Edinburgh Council, who were unable to or unwilling to help him. We then paid for a hotel for overnight for him. And, we tried to. So we booked the hotel for him. And the hotel refused him when he arrived at the hotel and says, we actually don't accommodate you type of people. So he left the hotel very upset, and Alex intervened. And we've actually reported this hotel to the Scottish Government. And we found him another hotel. And the next morning we got a hold of the Scottish Housing Minister. And we told him the situation. He was very shocked with the situation. He intervened, and we managed to get the veteran within 24 hours, managed to get in the scatter flat, accommodated for him and his daughter. He had absolutely nothing, so we had to provide clothes for the child, toys for the child, a bed, furniture, and we did a appeal to, it was the Military Museum in Scotland, who were closer to him, and they've supplied food and a whole load of furniture as well. And we've got him established. He's now well settled into his property. He's got himself a job. His daughter's at nursery school, and his life is back on track.
My name's Darren Peace. I was infantry for 10 years. My first posting was Northern Ireland. Was there for nearly 3 years, resident battalion. Just routine patrols. Then left there, moved down to Canterbury. Deployed from Canterbury to Belize for pre-deployment training. Then deployed to Afghanistan, first time, 2008, for 7 months. Relatively quiet tour, not really a great deal incidents-wise for myself. Came back from Afghanistan and back to Canterbury, back to normal routine. Deployed to Kenya for pre-deployment training again before I went back to Afghanistan in 2010 on Herrick 13. Came home from Afghanistan, asked for early release, and I left the army 21 days after coming home from Afghanistan. I was involved in an incident in Afghanistan, so I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder, which was mismanaged for years. Medication, everything wasn't working, and I turned to cocaine and alcohol for coping mechanism, which in time led to the breakdown of my marriage. I lost my house, my kids, all to do with addiction. So I became homeless. I was in a local authority hotel in West Lothian at the time, which there was people selling drugs through the room next door. And there was a load of heroin addicts round about me. So I was only going to end one way. So I reached out to the charity, and within a matter of 10 days, 10 days to 2 weeks, they had got me out of that situation. They'd found me a placement in Tom Harrison House Rehab in Liverpool. They facilitated, done all the groundworks on it, and they've supported me through it, both emotionally, financially. So completed the 90 days rehab, come back to Scotland. I was put into a hotel. Well, we got sorted out up here. Then I was put to another local authority. It was just as bad as the one in West Lothian. So the charity then dealt with the MSPs who got me into a temporary accommodation, which led to me, I was in there for a year, still supported through the charity, financially, with everything. Dawn and Alec became my mum and dad, basically. And then after a year, I got my permanent house in Hamilton, and I've now been in there for 3 months. They facilitated the move into rehab, into residential, supported me through the full 90 days. And then when I've come back, they've paid for the hotel. They've done all the work to get me into the temporary accommodations. It's not just the financial help, it's the emotional help as well. I now have a life. I didn't have a life if Donna and Alec hadn't stepped in when I was in Bathgate. My family would have buried me. That was where I was going. So I'm clean, I'm sober, I'm in my permanent accommodation, I've got my wee dog. I'm in a really good place mentally. My PTSD has been managed fantastically now through the support from the charity as well. And then after Christmas now, it's time to go back to work. Simple message would be reach out because it helps you. During the marriage breakup, my ex-wife still had all my stuff, so the charity, they actually got me replacement medals and they presented them to me. So the night before, I'd had a shave and I thought it was just normal moisturiser. No, it wasn't normal moisturiser. So it had self-tanning in it. So yeah, I was the same colour as your jumper. Yeah. Yeah.
We bought him a case of Tango.
So this was an ongoing joke. I had been tangled. And I look forward to 2025 because it's a new year. I'm in a new house, so then it's getting back into work, back into a normal routine. And then next year, I will get contact with my youngest 2 kids face to face rather than just video calls. I would say for people who are struggling, it's okay to be not okay and to certainly reach out to the charities because that's what they're there for and they're there to help. There's no shame in asking for help.